It is Sal and Jerry in for Boomer and Geo and Fliegelman and Zoo and CeeLo, and we've got a whole bunch for you today. Yes, we'll get into some basketball yet again. We will get into some football because we are now 8 weeks away from the official start of the 2022 NFL season. But, of course, we will start with baseball, and why the hell
I thought you were going to say
Sal
religion.
Licata, good morning. How are you,
I think
sir?
you're going to say we start with religion or some kind of historical thing.
I'm going to pass on that right now.
Yeah.
Now, if that comes up at 8:30, I don't know. But right now, we'll move on from that.
Good morning, Jerry.
Is it, though?
No. Is it ever? I saw a car fire on the way in today.
Never
saw that.
CeeLo and I saw a stabbing and a man on the loose in Manhattan.
Nice. All right. So
we
we're
didn't
getting
see the
somewhere.
stabbing. We saw the police activity and then found out that our route to work, there was a fatal stabbing in Manhattan.
Oh.
That was a great start to the show. Good morning.
Yeah.
Hi. Let's start this over. 6:01. So, Yankees won last night. So there's two ways you can start here. We can go negative. We can go positive. I think the right way to go would be what happened at Citi Field last night because there's many different ways to, and I hate to use the word breakdown, but discuss why the Dodgers won and the Mets lost. And I'm going to give you the first crack at it because I have my number one culprit. Go.
Yeah, well, I think Pete Alonso probably
we
is the
agree.
number one. Yeah, I mean,
agree.
that would be the obvious thing. I just think the Dodgers are
Really good?
Yeah, and look, the Mets played a good game, and, they battled back. Look, Joelio Rodriguez, people are going to knock him for coming in the game. He has to come into the game against lefties. He's not very good. That's some of the problem for the Mets. Pete Alonso, if he's not getting the job done
with guys in scoring position on multiple occasions
against a lefty to boot, then you're going to have an issue. And Andrew Heaney, he sucks. Like, I know he's
I'll
been
tell you
good
what,
this
man,
year.
he looked good last night.
No, I mean, he did give up a couple homers there.
I understand.
If Pete Alonso's not hitting Andrew Heaney, the Mets aren't going to win. It's as simple as that. Not against the Dodgers. I mean, and that's kind of the problem. I know people getting on Buck as well, but it's one game. The Dodgers are really good. And I will not – I know a lot of people say, like, you shouldn't overvalue a regular series. Doesn't really mean much in the postseason. I get that. However, Scherzer, DeGrom – and I know Scherzer's not pitching this series – but DeGrom versus the Dodgers, that means something to me because that's what you're going to see in the postseason.
For sure.
If these two teams meet, it's not going to be Taijuan Walker, who's not great against good teams. It's going to be DeGrom, Scherzer. So that, to me, is more important. But it's a tough loss for the Mets.
I thought a couple things. Number one, I think the easy person to pick on is McCann. That's easy.
But what do you expect from
whatever.
him?
Exactly. Now, you want to talk about the whole idea of pinch hitting for him. I thought Buck explained it relatively well why he didn't. It wasn't the 8th or 9th inning. You were a little bit earlier in the game. He is what he is. We know that. Fine. Let's move that one aside because that's the easy one. Two things here. A, as we mentioned, Alonso. You got to, and forget the strikeout in the 5th inning. You got first and third, and just put the ball in play and get the run in the first. And that to me was problem number one. Problem number two, and then TV's showing it. I mean, I know he breaks the bat again. I get okay, fine. Whatever. That's in the 7th inning after LA takes the lead. But the other one, too, is, and not that Taijuan Walker was good, bad, or anything in between. He was fine. You simply cannot hit Joey Gallo with 2 outs and the bases loaded.
Yeah.
And I know it's early in the game, but that to me right there was, I mean, I know they're going up and in, and they were doing it pitch after pitch and busting them in. That's the one guy. You already took care of him once. Why are you allowing a run to come in with Joey Gallo up? And then you got to face Lux, who beautiful job at hitting going the other way. Next thing you know, that 1-0 leads, that 3-1, you're losing. And it all comes back from that 2-out at bat to Gallo.
Yeah, and that's why Walker drives me nuts with the walks. And then, like you said, you got to be able to get Joey Gallo. I know he's been better with the Dodgers, but Walker putting the Mets behind the 8 ball against the Dodgers, that's not a good thing. But you give them credit. They battle back. And they get the job done as far as tying the game. Arcana with a home run, Jerry. I mean, there was a lot there to like with the Mets, but
yes, their first run was tremendous. The bunt
with Marte,
Marte pushing the bunt. It was kind of very like not Benintendi, LeMahieu the other night.
Right,
push the bunt. You put them in a weird spot, and Nimmo is just flying around the bases. And you're sitting there saying, "Yeah, like the Mets are doing Met things. That was awesome." And then it kind of fell apart. They fall behind. Yes, they come back, and then in the end, they wind up losing the game. But to me, it was a frustrating game to lose because it was there to be won.
Yeah, I know. But it's the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are a good team. It's going to happen. The good thing is Atlanta lost, so you don't lose any ground. I mean,
which is fascinating because they took that 2-0 lead, and you thought they were just going to blow right by Colorado.
And they gave it right back. And what's worse, losing to the Dodgers, losing to the Rockies? So you know what? A day off the calendar, Mets still have the 3-game lead. no harm, no foul. But you do want to see them go out there and beat the Dodgers. It wasn't like there was a complete mismatch, but you do get the feel. I mean, the Dodgers lineup is significantly better.
Yes.
Look at the Mets lineup. And I know it's against lefties, and they're going to face all three lefties here now with Kershaw, who's announced on Thursday. But look, you really want to nitpick? Part of the problem with McCann is that the Mets didn't do enough to upgrade the DH spot that we all talked about at the trade deadline, because McCann can't hit. So what do you need to do? Get a real DH. And between Vogelback and Ruff, who Ruff is going to be the right-handed bat, it's not enough. Like when I saw, and I'm not trying to rip on Darren Ruff here, but come on, when we saw that was the name that the Mets got, the reaction was, what? That's it? Darren Ruff? What, are you kidding me? And this is why. Had that been a real right-handed bat there, maybe he does something in this game that changes it. All it takes is one at-bat, one big hit. When with Ruff, you're like, that's the guy that's backing up Alonso. So if the Mets aren't getting anything from DH, if they're not getting anything from catcher, I know last night Escobar had a good game, had a couple hits, but really you have at least two spots in that order. And then if Alonso doesn't come through, now you're really screwed. So they need Alonso, Lindor. They need those guys to produce. And if they don't, they're not going to win many games.
Right. And again, I'm not picking on Alonso. I just think when you've got multiple opportunities, I'm not asking for a triple. I'm not asking for to hit the ball out of the ballpark. That first at bat was annoying because you're just looking for a fly ball. You're just looking, even, right? Because there was nobody. Was there anybody out? There was nobody out. So even a double play ball gets a run in. I don't know. It just, to me, was one of those things. He had opportunities, and I'm not blaming him. But
well, how could you? He's been.
I know that. What I'm trying to say is there are other spots in that game. Like, to me, it would have been very easy to come on here this morning and just crush the bullpen and James McCann.
Right.
That's the easy thing to do. But there were a lot of things that led up to that point as to why they lost the game and why they were in that spot. Like, again, hitting Gallo with the bases loaded is not excusable.
Right.
If he actually connects with one and hits a ball in the gap, you tip your cap. Oh, he got one. But hitting him on the first pitch?
Yeah, and there's a reason.
I mean, come on.
There's a reason I don't trust Walker. And look, you look at the final line. Is it the worst? No, but Taijuan Walker's supposed to be better than 5 1/3 and giving
and
up
sweating it out there in the sixth inning.
That's what I mean. So, and the bullpen wasn't bad. Joely Rodriguez. What do you expect? Every reliever to be perfect? I mean, Rodriguez.
You're right.
He's their lefty. And then again, it goes back to, well, Epler didn't do enough at the deadline, because if you're concerned about that, but I don't think their bullpen was bad overall. You consider what they did after taking over for Walker.
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
One run, you got to be able to score against the Dodgers. But again, we can't pick on Alonso because he's been so great. So then look at the lineup as a whole. Now, you could say McNeil batting down in the order. Do you like that? But it is against lefties. And if he's your best hitter, maybe you shouldn't be hitting that low in the order. McCann's going to be a whipping boy because he does absolutely nothing offensively, but that's known. And again, the DH, you just look at it. The Mets are built with Scherzer, DeGrom, obviously Edwin Diaz, and the top four in that order. That's it. If those guys aren't doing their jobs, and that's why it's hard to win. I don't think the Mets are a World Series team, Jared.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because that was the thought I had last night as well. If you can't score, DeGrom, kind of like the other day on Sunday, DeGrom and Scherzer can go up and throw up zeros all you want. Well, guess what the Mets are going to be facing too?
Right.
The other team's ace pitchers. And if you're consistently throwing up zeros but getting nothing from your offense, at some point something's got to give, which is why I don't think just because, and I've heard all the experts, and I get it, I understand, if you can get those two guys 4 times in a series, it's going to be very difficult to beat them. Sure. It's also going to be very difficult for the Mets to beat the other teams 1 and 2 because they don't score enough sometimes.
I do think they're built better for the postseason, but we need to see it. These guys actually have to do the job. Point is, they put the ball in play, right? So you figure, all right, maybe that should play in the postseason against good pitchers. Don't strike out a ton, put the ball in play, see what could happen here. But if your star players aren't getting it done, they have no chance, because Naquin has come back down to earth. Like I said, Vogelback, Ruff, all of a sudden, you look at this team, and look, maybe you see Vientos at some point here, a guy we heard about that if they didn't get anybody at the deadline, they would make him be the DH. They need to upgrade the DH spot. That's a big, big issue, because they need insurance for Alonso and Lindor, and they don't have it in that lineup right now as far as guys who are going to produce runs. They have some length in the order with McNeil down there and with Mark Canha, who's been a stud.
Yeah.
Think about where they'd be without Mark Canha and the production that he's provided at the bottom of the order in the last couple of weeks, even specifically in the last couple of weeks. but they're not. Their lineup is not on the Dodgers, on the Braves, that top tier level.
The funny thing about Vogelback was when McCann comes out and, to hit in that spot, there was several people on Twitter, where's Vogelback? Why are you hitting McCann? Get him out, bring And what does Vogelback do in the ninth?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. People want to see Vogelback. They have
I get it.
He's better than Dom Smith was, and he gives you a fighting chance there. You're hoping he could hit one out, but he's Vogelback's not that good. This is not like I'm not trying to pick on the guy, Jerry. I feel bad even, but he's not that good.
And he's also injured.
Right,
by the
dealing
way,
with a hamstring. I mean, this is what happens, and we're criticizing the Mets, and I think it sounds worse than the reality. Like we know they're a good team, right?
I think you have to look at where we're putting them, though. We're talking about them in relation to the Dodgers, not the rest of the National League. Yes, I am not saying they're not a good team. I'm not saying they're not going to make a run in the playoffs. All of that still exists. My concern and my contention has been for a while now, there are so many people that think this is the team that's going to represent the National League in the World Series, and I say, guys, the Dodgers have won 90 games. Like, the Mets would be, I think, 9 games out now if they were playing with the Dodgers.
And think about this, too. The Mets don't score their runs via home run. Well, last night, 2 of them came on
and they needed them.
home runs. Yeah, I mean, they can hit some homers, but that's not their game. So I want to see how they do these next couple of days. Heaney was the worst of the bunch. Anderson today.
I know.
Clayton Kershaw.
Although Kershaw's not what he's been. We know that.
But he's still Clayton Kershaw.
Understand. I got you.
I'm with you. I think he's highly overrated, but whatever.
That's not overrated. He's just older. He's not the same pitcher.
Well, right, at this point. But still, I mean, I want to see what this Mets lineup can do against those guys where they couldn't really get to Heaney outside of a couple of
not to mention Gonsolin in the postseason. You're going to have to deal with him,
assuming he's there.
Okay. Right. They're saying 1 start, maybe 2. So if that is nothing more than precautionary, you get into a series with these guys, it is ridiculous what they're starting pitching is done.
Look at their freaking lineup, too.
I but look at the ERAs. Yeah. Like, they don't even give up. They said, was it Gary last night? I forget who it was. I think it was Gary that said, no, it might have been Keith, actually. He goes, well, the mark of the Dodgers is their pitching's really good and they don't give up a lot of runs.
Yeah.
Their lineup's really good. They score a lot of runs. You know what that means? They win a lot of games.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Not many weaknesses, except maybe the bullpen.
We did yesterday, kind of like the tail of the tape, heading into the series on Baseball Night in New York, and they showed a graphic. And I had no idea. Like, if I'm not big into numbers, but if you were to ask me who had the better, I would say the Mets had the better starting pitching overall. I would think that their ERA was better. It was
not. It's not, though.
It's not.
Well,
the Dodgers
scored 16-1.
Oh, I get it, but
ERA of 2.
But if you're giving the Dodgers the edge, obviously in runs scored. If the only thing they were even in was average with runners in scoring position. Everything else favored the Dodgers. Relief pitching ERA, starting pitching ERA, obviously the runs scored. So, I mean, it just shows you, we know the Dodgers are a better team. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. But
if I ask you right now, because I sort of knew this, but I wasn't exactly sure of the number. If I asked you right now what the Mets' run differential was for this year, what would you tell me? They've won a lot of games, so you know it's going to be pretty good.
Plus 135?
You're close. They're plus 126.
Okay.
That's a pretty good number. The Braves are plus 137. The Phillies, who are 14 games over 500, plus 54.
Okay.
All right, fair enough. You know what the Dodgers are?
It's got to be well over 200, right?
Plus 287.
I mean, it's almost 3. That is ridiculous. They just crush.
That means they don't beat teams. That means they pummel teams.
Why are we then looking at, and I know the postseason can be a different animal, but don't you get the sense it's not just us in New York?
Might be 267. I can't really see.
Okay.
I think it's 287.
Well, get some glasses.
I know. I forgot to bring them in today. I think it's 287.
Don't you get the sense, maybe it's just me being in New York, but I feel like people are overlooking
That's what
the Dodgers.
That's what I was saying. I feel like because of DeGrom and Scherzer, and I get it. The Mets are really,
but even
really
with the
good.
Yankees.
But I think because we're in New York, I think because we don't watch them often because the games start at 10 o'clock Eastern time.
But we still know how good they are numbers-wise.
But we're not watching them.
Right.
I mean, you just said you did the tail of the tape last night on TV Live, and you were taken aback a bit by what you saw.
I was surprised. Yeah, a little bit. Because if the Mets don't have the edge there, right. So maybe the New York bias, but I also think there's this, the Dodgers in the postseason because they've only gotten it done once in the pandemic year. However, this could be one of those years where
this might be the best of the bunch they've had.
Correct. And where they just act like the best. Last year, disappointing, losing to Atlanta in the postseason. I think all those things are factors, plus believing in the New York teams that we have. But you look at the Dodgers, I mean, they have the best team. I know the best team doesn't always win, but maybe this is one of those years where the best team does, in fact, win. The numbers say that they are going to be hard to beat, if not impossible to beat.
If
I mean, the Astros, the Yankees, whoever.
Between lineup, pitching, sheer record. Oh, by the way, I mean, they could. So it's August 30th. They've got 90 wins. So they've got approximately what? So they've played 100. They got about 40. They got about 30 games left, something like that, right around there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but they put up the number like their last 50 games or something, like 44-10.
Yeah.
So if you're playing at that pace, hard to continue. But if you keep up that pace, they could win with 30 games left. If I told you they went 22-8, would that be surprising to you?
No.
That puts them at 112, maybe 113.
I think they're winning 110, no problem.
You would certainly think so. That's how good they've been. So I think we overlooked them, A, because the Met resurgence. You've got Buck Showalter here. The feeling around the organization with Steve Cohen is different. You've got them now with a better record than the Yankees, who are still 6 games up in the loss column in the AL East. So we're very Met-centric. But I think if you step back and look at it, I agree with you. It's really the Dodgers.
And their closer's not right. Their closer, Kimbrel, hasn't been very good. So from a Mets perspective, and we'll focus on that for a second, A, because the Mets are playing them, B, because the Mets are in the National League. But you look at it with Scherzer, DeGrom, and Diaz, you think, oh, I don't care what the Dodgers record is, who could compete with that, but it takes the – and even Buck, I love Buck over Roberts. I mean, I think he should be able to outmanage him as well in a postseason series. But, boy, the Mets don't have – they're not there. And I don't even know – I don't want to say they're not close, but there's a clear separation when you look at the overall talent that the Dodgers have that the Mets just don't. I mean, Darren Ruff is the Mets' 5th hitter. And I know you could say the Dodgers added Gallo, but he's actually been pretty good with since coming over from the Yankees.
I think you got the Dodgers, everybody else, and the Mets lead that next tier. I think that's fair to say.
Over the Yankees and Astros?
I'm talking about the National League.
Okay.
In the National League, the Dodgers are the clear-cut one. And then the Mets are 1A, whatever you want to call them, and I think they lead that. They lead that next tier.
Barely over the Braves.